Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans?
Come on, JD, that's no way to talk about your new boss.
They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
It's common sense. They don't want these people, so they send them to the United States because the United States is run by stupid people. Some are good and some are rapists and some are killers, and we don't even know what we're getting.
The truth is, it's true. They think it's like Mother Teresa's coming across the border. Well, I said drug dealers, I said killers, and I said rapists. And they made the word rapist. They really picked that up.
If you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
No, I don't think so at all. This judge is giving us unfair rulings. Now I say why. Well, I'm building a wall, okay? And it's a wall between Mexico, not another country.
But he's not from Mexico.
In my opinion,
he's from Indiana.
His Mexican heritage, and he's very proud of it. They're ruining our country, and it's true. They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing. They're destroying our country. They don't like it when I said that, and I never read Mein Kampf. They said, oh, Hitler said that in a much different way. And they're destroying the blood of our country. They're destroying the fabric of our country. And we're going to have to get them out. We're going to have to get mass numbers of these, especially the criminals. They're coming from jails, prisons. They're coming from mental institutions.
We can keep going, but I think you get the picture now.
Well, I think one thing they should be doing is thinking seriously about what's wrong in their communities, and going both in personal ways, but also in the political leaders that they choose, really holding their feet to the fire and asking that they do things that will actually address their problems. I think, frankly, that's a big problem with Trump, is that he diagnoses the problems in a very successful, very passionate way, but I don't see him as offering many solutions.
As somebody who doesn't like Trump myself, the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He's the best president of my lifetime, and he revealed the corruption in this country like nobody else.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
I think that he was a good president. I think he made a lot of good decisions for people.
I take it you're not a Trump supporter from what I've read. Am I right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I didn't vote for Trump. All around, he was a great president. I'm 37 years old. Certainly the best president of my lifetime.
As you can see, Vance has come a long way since first being propped up by the libs in the media for his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, about his life growing up in a crumbling Ohio Rust Belt community. Now, if you somehow haven't heard yet, Donald Trump just announced that JD Vance will be joining him on the campaign trail as his vice president. The two have a very interesting history, with Vance making a name for himself in politics by claiming to be a never-Trumper Republican back in 2016, but flip-flopped during his Senate campaign in 2021 after realizing that Trump's phony populist persona and sucking up to the man was the easiest pathway to victory. A former confidant of depraved venture capitalist Peter Thiel and a Silicon Valley elitist himself, JD Vance represents the worst of American politics, a slimy, insecure, fraudulent, self-interested, power-hungry person who has proven time and time again that he will do anything and everything Trump asks of him, which is exactly what Trump and the Heritage Foundation and everybody in conservative circles want in this administration.
I do think that basic human honesty, even though it may not always pay off in the short term, it tends to pay off in the long term, or at least if you're not honest, it tends to pay off negatively in the long term.
I'm sick of the big tech companies censoring conservatives, shutting us up, and let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, stealing the 2020 election.
It's no secret that JD knows exactly what he's doing by latching on to these talking points and diving headfirst into the good graces of MAGA, which just makes his political ambitions that much more dangerous.
And I find it weird, George, that people like you obsessed with what I call what happened in 2020. You're so incurious about what actually happened in 2020, which is why so many people mistrust our elections in this country. If I had been vice president, I would have told the states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and so many others that we needed to have multiple slates of electors, and I think the U.S. Congress should have fought over it from there. That is the legitimate way to deal with an election that a lot of folks, including me, think had a lot of problems in 2020. I think that's what we should have done.
Case in point, while using Trump's classic strategy of attacking the media and playing the victim of a larger conspiracy against his political allies, Vance openly admitted that he would have followed Trump's orders and went through with the January 6th coup attempt in 2021. Positions like this are exactly why Trump picked Vance to be his right-hand man and a potential successor to the throne. It is truly astounding to think that the same person who compared Trump to the Big H would be licking his boots like he is now. But this is unfortunately the type of scenario and candidate that our political and economic systems incentivize to seize power.
This is an evolution, and I know you've been asked about this before, about past comments that you've made about Donald Trump. You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him, terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
You literally said, you texted a friend, that Trump is a cynical a-hole like Nixon who wouldn't be that bad and might even prove useful, and that he's America's Hitler. And you compared him to a cultural heroine in the Atlantic Monthly.
Well, Sean, I don't hide from that. I was certainly skeptical of Donald Trump in 2016, but President Trump was a great president, and he changed my mind. I think he changed the minds of a lot of Americans because, again, he delivered that peace and prosperity. If you go back to what I thought in 2016, another thing that was going on, Sean, is I bought into the media's lies and distortions. I bought into this idea that somehow he was going to be so different, a terrible threat to democracy. It was a joke. Joe Biden is the one who's trying to throw his political opposition in jail. Joe Biden is the one who's trying to undermine American law and order. President Trump did a really good job.
This is precisely what we're talking about. Fox News has given him the platform to atone for his past sins against Donald Trump because they're smart enough to know Vance has the Republican Party's best interests in mind because of his connections to wealthy donors and willingness to change his politics to fit the base's attitude. At any given time, Fox sees Vance as a useful asset to push the conservative agenda, so they decided to work with him instead of casting him aside like other never-Trump Republicans like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger.
JD will never be owned by the establishment. He won't be owned by me either, unfortunately. I'd love to own the guy, but I don't think he'll be there for me, but that's okay. You know what? I'm doing the right thing for the country. He's a very independent guy.
I object to this because we are living in a banana republic where the president is using his Department of Justice to go after his chief political rival, the person he will appear on the ballot with in about a year. If the Department of Justice will use these nominations for law instead of politics, I am happy to end this hold policy. But so long as the Department of Justice uses its nominations and uses its personnel to go after its political opponents from the President of the United States on down.
It only took a year for JD Vance to be completely owned by Trump and doing his bidding in the Senate.
JD is kissing my ass. He wants my support. My two sons, you probably never heard of them, Don and Eric. They're big JD fans. And the entire MAGA movement is for JD Vance. And when JD wins his race this November, you are going to hear wailing from every corporate newsroom in New York and Washington. And you're going to hear crying Chuck Schumer howling with rage. This is a great person who I've really gotten to know. Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love. Remember I said that about Kim Jong-un. He fell in love, and they said, oh, Trump is saying he fell in love. Actually, he did, if you want to know that truth.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, you know, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids of those marriages.
Given this take, telling women to stay in abusive marriages, and Vance's anti-abortion stance, it's no wonder that he fell in love with a serial misogynist like Donald John Trump. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.